Good afternoon. You're here with Red Boots and Heels today. I am Heels.
I'm Boots.
Yes, and we're going to be talking to none other than
Richard Big O Barnett.
That's right.
This should be good.
I think it's going to be great. We're actually sitting here with Richard and getting a more personalized idea of his story, and also just kind of reflect for a few moments on, how he's feeling today since he has been released and he was able to come back home. But there's still a lot of J6ers that are sitting in a DC literally prison right now that is getting the same kind of terrible treatment that Richard encountered. And we as a community, we as Americans are not doing enough to stand up for those people. And so we decided that we might need to come and have a personal, in-depth conversation with Big O so that he could kind of enlighten us on a few things. So right now I'm just going to kind of let him tell his story, talk to us a little bit about what in the world can we do to get the word out there that right just a few miles from the White House that people are being imprisoned for nothing other. They are political prisoners and waiting on justice to really happen. And the real justice would be that they wouldn't be serving time right now when they haven't even been through a court system yet to even determine their guilt or innocence. So I just want to kind of turn it over, and Richard, just say whatever you want to say.
I thank these girls so much for having me because I want people to know who I am, okay? There's a lot out there about me, about this guy that did this and did that. When I went to the Capitol, I went there with a couple of friends to peacefully protest and to hear Trump speak. I'd never been to the Capitol. I wanted it off my bucket list. There were no pre-plans for any kind of violence. I'm not a violent guy. I've done Back to Blues rallies right here in Northwest Arkansas. I've done Second Amendment rights rally. That's our right. You know what I mean? I've done auctions to buy body cams for local police departments. I've been a pillar in my community. Hard-working, self-employed guy. That's who I am. I'm just your average Joe American that loves my country. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of the prelude to me ending up at the Capitol so you'll understand what really happened that day. We went and listened to everybody speak over at the Washington Monument. Had a good time, met a lot of great people. It was just wonderful. Flag waving, all the stuff you would expect to be at a Trump rally. Towards the end, Trump announced, hey, let's all walk down to the Capitol. And I didn't know this at the time, but they already had a rented space down there too, off to the side of the Capitol. As we walked down Pennsylvania Boulevard, I was shaking hands with all the cops. I'm a retired firefighter out of Memphis. I have police in my family. Like I said, all the law enforcement in this area knows me and respects me. I'm a patriot. So I'm walking along down the street. I'm walking with this lady that's in a wheelchair, getting pushed by our nurse. We're joking around and having a good time. Every time I came to the intersection, I shook hands with the police. I thanked them for being there. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen in the future, but you know your past and your present, who you are. We arrived at the Capitol, and my friends and I had already decided we weren't staying. We were just circling around to see the crowd gather. And so we circled up around the Capitol while everybody else, including this old lady in a wheelchair and multiple families, went down to the west side of the Capitol, which is what they now call the tunnel. While we're up on top walking past the Capitol, we suddenly hear tear gas and flash grenades going off and turn around and witness, I don't know if it was Metro Police or Capitol Police or who it was, we witnessed them attacking the crowd from behind and driving them into the tunnel. This was not us starting anything. We went there to peacefully protest. We're talking about families, elderly, everything else. 5 people ended up dying that day, and not one was a police officer. Nobody killed a police officer that day. Innocent, peaceful protesters were killed that day. So anyway, going on with my story, when we saw that happen, we circled around to the front of the building where I did and was separated from my 2 guys. So I went up on the steps on the other side, which, by the way, I might tell you, the other side, which is the east side, was a totally different story. While the police were waging war on the left side, I go around to the east side, which is the main entrance to the Capitol, and it was like being at Woodstock. Police were patting people on the back, hugging people, waving people in. I never saw a barrier the whole time I was there. And so as peaceful as it was, I went up on the steps to try to figure out and look down where my guys were so we could hook up and go home. We had an agreement to wave flags and to spot each other. And when I got to the top of the steps, which at that point was peaceful, people were chanting and singing and this, that, and the other, I was suddenly rushed by a crowd and knocked into the building, and actually have it on video because I was videoing while I was looking at my people. I got knocked into the Capitol. Yet I'm charged with enough stuff. I've already done 4 months in the D.C. prison. I'm under house arrest right now under all kinds of duress. Can't hardly earn a living in anything else. Not that I'm crying. I'm a strong man. They can do what they want to me. I'm a patriot. I'm going to stand up regardless. But the point is, it's not easy, okay? All because I got knocked into a building. And there's video of me getting shoved in, which we've turned over to the prosecution, which they totally ignore, which is why I'm willing to go to trial, because I'm not going to put up with this. Right. But most people were waved in by the police. Mm-hmm. There's video out there of the police shaking people's hands, hugging people, and telling them you're welcome to walk around, just don't break anything. Yet those same people are pre-trial up there still, over a year later, not being released on bond. Talking about due process denied. I'm going to give you some examples of what's going on in these prisons, okay? When I first arrived in D.C. prison, they threw us in a closed down section that had been closed down since the 70s, full of black mold, even in the drinking water, down the sinks. They gave us nothing to clean it up with. And so just the basic conditions. It was winter time. You didn't get a pillow. If you're lucky, you got a blanket. Sometimes I didn't. At first, I didn't get a pad. I slept on concrete. Now, I'm 61 years old. I'm a pretty tough cookie, but concrete will catch up with you after a while, especially cold, freezing cold concrete, because most of the time the heat was out there. But the guards were given free rein to pretty much do what they wanted to. I've been handcuffed and shackled and slammed headfirst into the concrete, put in so many complaints to the warden that wasn't funny. All of them were ignored and never responded to. I'm giving you short versions here. I was in with Ryan Semsel. He was another patriot. We were all in one wing together, and we're all in solitary confinement. Of course, there's 2 different layers of that. We're all in solitary, but if they did something they didn't like, they took you down to the hole, which is even worse. I spent most of my time there. Ryan Semsel, he had gotten into a verbal argument through his cell door with a guard over a roll of toilet paper. The poor man needed a roll of toilet paper, and wouldn't nobody help him. And so when the shifts changed, the guard told lies about how bad it really was and everything. And they took Ryan down to the other end where there weren't any cameras and threw him in a cell down there. I verbally had talked to the guards and got them to agree not to take him to the hole and take him to the other end, thinking he would be safe there where I could at least try to keep an eye on him. The next morning early, right when I was about to get out for my little 1 hour out a day to get my shower and make my phone call, another guy that had already been out for his hour ran to me and said, "Something's wrong with Ryan. Please go check on him when you get out." As soon as I got out, I went down to Ryan's cell, and he had a sheet hanging over his little concrete thing he slept on, and I kept calling out his name. He pulled back the sheet and set up. He looked very disoriented, and when I saw his face, it looked like hamburger meat. They had come in the middle of the night and zip-tied his hands behind his back, and 2 or 3 of the guards beat him so bad he lost sight in one eye and will have seizures the rest of his life. They also broke his nose, broke his jaw. It was bad. I'd never seen anything like it before. I've never been in prison before either, so you're getting a lot of shock factor seeing all this. But so Ryan, after all this happened, eventually they had to take him to medical care outside. They tried to keep it inside and cover it up. And even though it's out there now and his lawyers are handling it, to this day they still deny it happened, even though we all saw it happen. That's how bad it is in there. Emmanuel Jackson, kind of special needs, under psychiatric care, thinks kind of like a young teenager, And he was in the cell next to me, and he had to go to medical. On the way back to medical, they were roughing him up, and so he was just verbally complaining, saying, "Quit hurting me, blah, blah, blah." And because he verbally complained about it, they threw him in his cell and started macing the hell out of this poor kid, okay? All the mace came into my cell and maced me. More recently, Christopher Quagland. I'm just going to read this list, okay? Because it'll be easier on this one, because this is the one right now. Yeah. Go give to Christopher if you can. It's Quaqlin. He has no criminal record. He's a husband and a father. He has celiac disease and requires a special diet or he'll get very sick. They won't give him his diet. He's recently lost 40 pounds. He's afraid he's going to die in prison. They threw him in general population. He was just recently attacked and beaten so badly he ended up needing 8 stitches and a lot of other medical care, and they would not even give him at that time, access to his attorney, who is also my attorney, Joseph McBride. By the way, he was taken away from his home. He didn't do anything violent. He was taken away from his home at gunpoint in front of his 2-month-old son. His 2-month-old son just celebrated his first birthday without him. Just because he went to protest and hear Trump speak basically on January the 6th, versus Antifa, who has burnt the whole country down for a year, and everybody just pats them on the back and says, no problem, man. That's just, you're just voicing, everything is within your right, You're just protesting. Go steal everything. Go rape people. Go kill people. And now the J6ers, to make us an example, for a couple of hours that we got shoved into the Capitol and wandering around, tried to leave, and they wouldn't let us leave, are going through this. Another one, Jake Lang. Jake Lang and I did Bible study, and every day, Jake's still in there, and basically, I hear reports on a regular basis of them beating him, the guards beating him, macing him. When I was in there with him and I were probably the favorite ones to go to the hole, just for asking the guards to quit mistreating people. Yes, hey, don't mistreat my guys. Boom, you go to the hole. So it's rough in there, guys. I can't tell you enough how bad it really is. And if you're patriots and you love your country, you got to stand up for the guys that are going through this, the ones that love their country enough that they're enduring. They're staying in there. They're going to trial. They're not quitting. They're not just giving up and pleading guilty to something they didn't do because they love their country. Now, don't get me wrong. There have been some that have done that, and I don't hold that against them. Because when you're in there with nothing but a misdemeanor charge, and they're holding you for a year, and you're losing everything you have, and you have family, your children are missing you, I can understand some guys going, you know what? All I got to do is say I'm guilty and time served and go home.
One thing that's happening here is, and something that I want people to understand is, when someone's having to plea out like that, and I'm saying having to, based on what your account is, they are. And we all know the justice system with public defenders, lawyers, and whatever. A lot of times it's a bartering system that's going on, and it's not really with the interest of the person that's sitting in jail, and especially in the area that they're in, because there's a lot of Democrats there that really it's kind of controlled to some degree.
Ooh, we're talking about D.C.
Yes, we are.
These people are basically political prisoners.
Yes. So the other thing that
not basically, we are.
Yeah.
I'm political prisoner number 376369.
So you've got this situation going on where these people are detained from even being able to make a living for their family. So you have something else that is play. You have the home life of these folks who are it is now deteriorating, not just from emotional stress, but from financial stress. All of these things are happening, and they're all compounding and getting worse and worse and worse by the day. So a lot of these prisoners are thinking on those terms as, I've got to do, now the suffering is not just here, and yes, I'm getting hurt, I'm getting beat, and the humiliation of being in here, not being able to take care of my family, but now my family is suffering outside there. So I want people to understand that this gravitates over everybody and layers deep with the family unit is being destroyed, and they're not able to continue on with their lives. So it's a whole world of people that's lives have come to a halt due to this.
Yeah, can you imagine traveling to D.C. to peacefully protest? You're all excited. It's going to be a good time. You're going to meet other patriots. You're going to come back home. Hopefully people will make the right decision, and the right person will end up in office, and our country won't be destroyed. Which, hey, the afterthought of this is, look how well Build Back Better is working. It's like a broken friggin' sink. But anyway, my point is, so you go there, right?
Yeah.
And you're cheering, you're waving your flag and all this. You don't even go to the Capitol. You just go down there and wave your flags and everything.
Yeah.
You say goodbye right before you leave to your wife and your new 2-month-old son.
And you think you're coming home.
And now, over a year later, you never even made it home? And that's just one example. So, once again, life's not easy for me being under house arrest. They do everything they can to throttle me. I'm having to sell personal stuff of mine to pay bills, what have you. But hey, at least I'm home. You know what I mean? At least I have a good enough attorney, and I fought hard enough that at least I'm home. But these guys aren't. So I can't say enough, and they can cut it out if I say it too much. StopHate.com, PatriotFreedomProject.com. Guys, get involved. Help them out. Don't do anything for me. I'll survive. I'm a tough guy. I don't ever ask for anything for myself. Some of these guys, because nobody else will give to them, I'm scraping up my own money I don't have and giving to them. So at least everybody else can do is stand behind these patriots.
Well, and the bottom line is a loss of due process and liberty, for one, is a precedent that sets for a loss of liberty and due process for all of us.
all of us.
It could be you next.
Yeah.
It could be your son.
That's the biggest thing. It
It's
will
a-
be you
It's a
next.
slippery slope, and that's exactly what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
They're forcing these people into taking pleas, and you can't blame anybody for doing that.
No.
You can't. You don't know their situation. They want to get out.
No.
They want to save their home. They want to save their children's futures. So they take a plea. They get out. It sets a precedence for the other cases.
Yeah.
And just to give you an example of how bad it can be, a lot of these guys that are taking pleas is because they've been there so long, they've already served time or what have you, and they've got to get back to their families. I do understand that. But I want to give you another example. I'm going to give you an example of myself, okay? I've already, for getting pushed into the Capitol, they wouldn't let me back out. I tried to leave. Once I got pushed in, they wouldn't let me back out. And I got a split video showing somebody on the inside looking up at the guard station, and somebody had to push that button because that's a magnetic door, 20,000 pounds. It didn't openly magically open because somebody
Just
pushed me.
think about this, folks.
I've got a split video showing the inside. I didn't know this at the time because I'm just in the middle of whatever's happening.
Yeah.
But I now have a split video of me getting shoved in my video, matched with another video on the inside somebody's filming of an officer and somebody dressed in a MAGA hat looking up at the guard booth, and suddenly the door is and pointing at the door, and suddenly they magically open.
Yeah.
I go flopping in because I'm trying to keep other people from getting trampled because of my firefighter training, so I end up getting trampled. By the time I got up and dragged into the crowd, they wouldn't let me back out. I didn't want to be in there. I mean, I had no business in there. But once they wouldn't let me back out, I'm not going to lie to you, I went looking for a bathroom. The rest is history. So AP photographers came in and said, hey, can we take a picture of you and sit down, whatever? I wasn't thinking about anything.
Now think about that. You
I
had
mean-
photographers in there.
Yeah, what were they
thinking
doing
the same thing. What were they doing there? The same thing. I mean, I often wondered, how did that picture of you sitting at the desk get out so quickly? It was very fast. It was like flash on the news. There it was.
Exactly.
So,
but anyway,
yeah.
I didn't finish my point.
Yeah.
My point is, for my role in it, non-violent role, got video of me getting shoved into the building, the whole 9 yards. For my role, I've already done 4 months in D.C. I'm under house arrest until September, unless it gets continued. In September, I go to trial where they're trying to put me away for 20 years, which is basically the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what it must feel like.
It's mind-boggling
Yeah.
that this is even America to me. It's just mind-boggling, okay?
This is not our
Yeah.
country.
It's not our
And
country.
in the meantime, what little bit of time I do have to try to stand up and fight and deal with all the information, the discovery on my trial, they still won't release all the film. They still won't release all the video for me to protect myself.
Why is that? I mean,
Yeah,
why?
that's a
I mean,
good question.
why- I mean,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
we all
yeah,
really know
yeah,
why it
yeah.
is, but
Yeah.
you know, they have the
Well, they
footage.
claim it's for security, government
Okay.
security.
Okay.
But they do tours, and which is all we basically
Right.
did. It's so crazy. Some of the film out there, you'll see the officers walk up to people and say, hey, you're welcome to be here, walk around,
Yeah.
whatever. Just don't break anything.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and then these same guys they told it to on film are some of the ones that are still in prison over a year
Right.
later.
Yeah.
Pre-trial.
Yeah.
It's actually people should be terrified by this.
yeah.
They really
should be
be.
terrified.
Yeah.
You should be applying this
But you know what?
to your own natural life, that this
Yeah.
is the America that it's starting to become, and it's really up to us to pay attention and listen to people like Richard, who has suffered through this and is still suffering through this, so that you know just how bad it can be.
Understand that it still is mind-boggling to me as it is to
Yeah.
you, only I'm having to live it.
Yeah.
And
Every day.
unfortunately, I'm not having to live it like these other guys, though. You know? At least I'm home. At least I can see my wife. I can't function very well, but at least I'm not waking up in a 6x6 cell, sometimes with no mattress or no blanket, horrible food, mold on the walls, hearing other guys cry out in pain because they've been beat, whatever the case may be. And, you know, it's really kind of funny, too, that the worst of this whole story, that the GOP is not standing up for us. Nobody's doing anything. We've got a couple like Marjorie Taylor Greene and what have you that have written letters or gone up there, and I commend them for that.
Yeah.
But that's as far as it went.
We have to get
I mean,
more.
the people that are supposed to protect us and protect the freedoms of Americans and make sure that due process is not denied are the DOJ and the FBI.
Yeah.
Well, we can't turn to them, so yeah, I'm just incredulous, but I just live my life every day. I put a lot of faith in God, and I do also understand that, He controls all things, good and evil. But He also motivates us in our heart. That He don't expect us to sit back and do nothing, and He's not magic, okay? Yeah. He's not magic. He expects people to step up within your spirit, within your beliefs, and help out and protect others that are His sons and daughters. And we've got some now, and they're up there in D.C. prison, in prison spread all over the United States. So once again, I can't say it enough. That's the reason I took on this interview. It might be not the reason they asked me to take on the interview, but I took on this interview to repeat over and over again. StopHate.com, PatriotFreedomProject.com.
Richard, I want to ask you about your beard. Little birdie told me something about your beard. I know that we visited once before, but I want to talk to you about your beard.
How you like that? It's not a beard. It's a goatee.
Okay, it's a goatee. My bad.
Okay. Basically, this has been going for a while. This has been being grown since I was in prison. When we were in there, I don't know what the situation is now. I've been out a while, and some things have changed, some things haven't. I'm sure nothing's changed too much for the good. But they wouldn't give us any kind of hygiene we couldn't cut our hair, we couldn't clip our nails, we couldn't shave, they wouldn't give us razors, which any other prison will, and I think the other parts of the prison were getting disposable razors, whatever you needed. We did get out, most of the time every day for a shower, and that was about the extent of it. And so at the time, I had some money in commissary, and they sold this stuff that will melt your hair off. And so I ordered some too. I don't know if you knew this part. So I ordered some, okay? Now, the funny thing is, and it is kind of funny, it said for black men only, and I asked a couple of black guys in there, and they said, well, it's because it's really strong, and I think our skin's tougher. I don't know that to be true or not. And so I tried it on my head and my beard and everything, keeping it away from my mouth. And sure enough, it melted the hair off. It took all my skin with it. So it was a pretty miserable 2 weeks in prison. On top of everything else I'm going through, now I burnt my skin off, okay? And so, but over a slow period of time, I learned how to use this stuff a little bit, not put as much on and get it off a little bit quicker and all that. And I fashioned myself a goatee because I don't know where I was going to put it around my mouth. And so once I got out of prison, I said, okay, great, I can shave. But the more I looked in the mirror, I thought, you know what? The rest of my guys are still in there. I'm not going to shave until everybody is free. Now, here's the situation I put myself in. The justice system, as far as I'm concerned, is not just. So there's no way that I can know if everybody's going to be free, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I could very easily turn into Rumpelstiltskin and actually step on my beard as I try to walk.
I feel like there has to be a disclaimer. When Mr. Barnett says, my guys, he's not talking about any preconceived conspiracy. No, these
they became my guys in prison.
A brotherhood of people going through the same suffering, the same loss of
Bible
liberty.
studying, praying.
Right. That is what we are talking about.
Thank you for making that point. They're trying to say that you were involved with other people and that this was all planned, what have you. You know, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of cameras throughout the Capitol. You know, they already know that that wasn't the case. So, but they want that to be the case so that they can pin more and more and more charges. When I looked at your charges, I seen charges this long, even some silly stuff like sitting at a certain desk was on there. How can that even be a charge? It was crazy to me that they were able to list all these things. Here you are, you're in the Capitol, you're actually helping people, you're talking to officers, the press is there, and yes, you go into a certain office, and yes, you make a statement, and that's what you're so famous for. It is the people's Capitol. It is theirs, and literally, on the flip side, some people were welcomed in, okay, from what I've seen. So, you know.
Yeah, actually, when I approached the Capitol, they're talking about all these barricades, and maybe there was some on the other side. I was one of the first ones there, to my knowledge, the first group going up there. I think a small group went earlier before Trump was stopped. But when I walked up, I didn't see one barricade.
Yeah.
Nobody did. The old lady in the wheelchair didn't see a barricade. The families didn't see a barricade. We just walked up and
you're not seeing their stories
Yeah.
on national television saying that they weren't there. You're not seeing that, and you want to know why you're not seeing this story and you're not hearing those stories from those eyewitnesses.
It doesn't fit
Is
the
because
narrative.
it doesn't fit the narrative. And honestly, shouldn't that be actually more of an important story to me than anything else? Is all these eyewitnesses that say the same thing and none of their stories are being heard. That's why we're here today, actually.
Basically, what's scary about the future of this is they're trying to set a precedent of people being afraid to utilize their God-given rights, to peacefully assemble, to air their grievances. What they're trying to say is anyone in the future who comes together, you come together to sing the anthem in a national park, you may have created some sort of conspiracy to overthrow the government. That's what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
And if they do that with this group of people, it's going to be done repeatedly throughout the future until you have no right. You have no right to say and speak your truth because they're going to throw you in the pen if you do.
And what this is very simple. They want to make an example of us to make everybody else fearful.
Yes.
We're not to fear our government. The government should fear us. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I wish I had a pocket constitution with me. You read that constitution, and we the people rule this nation.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be our servants, but over a long period of time, we've been distracted, and a lot of it's our own fault. We let that get away from us. If you haven't read the Constitution yet, get a copy of it and read it, and understand what our country is really built on. I mean, even CNN and everybody else right now is screaming, we're a democracy, we're a democracy. We're not a democracy, we're a republic of democratic states. So I mean, we have to understand who we are before we can be who we need to be.
Absolutely.
Imagine the morale, and even to this day, the morale. You've got guys that are going to be stronger than other guys, and guys like me, they're going to reach out and help other guys and make sure that you're not going through too much psychological distress. Don't get me wrong, I go through it, but some people handle it better than others. But another guy approached me and said, Richard, we got to do something for morale. What about singing the national anthem every night? I said, well, we'll do that. And he goes, well, why don't you start it? Because you've got a really big mouth. He goes, why don't you start it? And so I did. I started every night. I would start singing the national anthem at a certain time. And this was back, I've been out for a while. I got out after 4 months and was arrested and turned myself in January the 9th or something. I wasn't arrested, I turned myself in January the 9th. That's a whole nother story. But, and now here we go to another January 9th, and now we're in the February, March, and almost into April. I started every night, I sung the national anthem, and everybody would join in. And there's guys coming and going, more people coming in every day, and pretty soon we had this whole place just rocking the national anthem every night. I want you guys to know that to this day today, and it'll be 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time if you want to sing along with them, they have not missed a night of singing the national anthem every night. It upsets me a little bit talking about it.
But it's ongoing, and I think they
every
have
night.
to hold on to that. These people are holding on to the America that they left the day January 6th, and when they were
and I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
Most of them feel abandoned.
Yeah.
They're not getting letters. They're not getting people putting money into their kids' sing goes. They're not getting anybody from the outside that they feel like gives a shit about them.
People, please.
So,
please.
I'm getting teary-eyed about it. I'm home. They're not.
Please help these people.
They're not.
These men have been held all this time, and they haven't given up on the idea.
They're just guys that love their country.
They still love their country. And they're still trying to stand and be brave, loving their country. And that gets to me.
A lot of these guys, I need to point this out for you military out there. A lot of these guys are military veterans. Some of them are Purple Heart.
Oh my gosh.
There's one guy, I didn't write his name down, I wish I had. He's a Purple Heart recipient. He went up there. Somehow he did up inside. I don't know if he got shoved in, if they waved him or what. He was in a very short period of time. And while he was in there, you know what he was doing? He was calming people down and picking up trash. It's recorded. The man was a Purple Heart. He was in there and talking to the cops, and you're welcome to be here. He's picking up trash where people didn't drop a paper cup or whatever. And in and out, I think, under 5 minutes. And then they came and raided his home. And at gunpoint, a Purple Heart recipient. Guys, this didn't happen magically.
Yeah.
This, you can call me what you want to call me a conspiracy theorist, but we're finding a lot of conspiracies are coming through.
Yeah.
This was intentional. This was a setup. The National Guard was asked not to show up. There was no crowd control when they knew they had 1 million people there. The mayor of D.C. had all her maintenance people go around and remove all the porta potties. So during that whole day, and that's why I was looking for a restroom in there. During that whole day, nobody had a place to go to the restroom.
Republicans need to stand up for what's happening. Okay, just a few miles from our White House. They need to stand up for people like Richard and the rest of the detainees there, January 6ers, if you will. Because if it was on the other side of the aisle and it was Democrats, it would be on every national news station out there, and every single one of them would be voicing their voice. And it really upsets me that our own Republican Party is not doing enough to stand behind these guys and to actually go in and use their calling. You know, they're supposed to be representing the people. Well, guess what? These are people. These are our people. These are patriots that, as he's explained, is getting a really, really bad rap here, and we're not saying enough, to really help them. So I just wanted to point that out, that actually the Democrats do more to help their part than we're doing to help ours. So what say all you? What say all you?
It may seem very cliche
Yeah.
to say this,
Yeah.
but love it or lose it.
Yeah.
Love it or lose it.
Yeah. Confession time. You either love this country and you love the people in it and you're willing to say something, stand up, do something, or you're not. People, I'm telling you, complacency right now is the death to America. Being okay with what's happening is the death to America as we know it, the free world that we know it.
You know,
So-
I know that some people get fearful or whatever, but I want to point something out to you. I'm just an average, everyday guy. Anything I say can and will be used against me in a court of law.
Yeah.
I haven't been to trial yet. They're trying to put me away for 20 years, but I'm still willing to sit here and talk
Yep.
to my fellow countrymen. I'll take that chance,
Yeah.
because I want you to love your country as much as I love it. And as much as these guys that are still sitting in prison, singing the national anthem every night, regardless of what they're going through, they're still coming together every night over a year later
Yeah.
and singing that national anthem and missing their families and missing their children and missing birthdays and bills not getting paid, So this is my personal big O. This is my
Yeah.
plea to you, is reach out and help these guys. You don't have to do anything for me. I'm fine. I'll always survive. That's what I do.
Well, do you have any last thoughts?
I mean, there's too much that I could say. So I just can't really say a lot other than God bless America and God bless people that still believe in America.
Yeah.
And God bless the people that are still willing to stand up and face adversity for America and for the future, because it's all about the future. And folks, we're not going to have one. Your kids and your grandchildren are not going to have one on the slippery slope that we're on.
And I want to remind everybody about the primaries coming up in May. Early voting starts the 9th through the 24th. Get out there. Check into these candidates and put the people in place that actually would have had a voice. At this point, I'm not hearing a whole lot. We need people in there that don't mind standing up and would absolutely say this is an atrocity that's happening, that has been happening, and we need to stop it.
I'm so glad y'all brought that up. I want to say something. One more thing, and I don't even want to say anything else. I've talked enough. I mean, people get it or they don't. I've heard so many people say my vote won't count anyway. Well, your vote won't count if you don't go do it. We have to vote in the primaries, America first. We've got to get these rhinos out.
Yeah.
These multi-generational payola people out. And maybe your vote will count, maybe it won't if you go, but it certainly won't if you don't.
That's correct.
So no matter what anybody else does, we still have to try to move forward and keep our rule of law intact.
Yeah.
Okay? If you can't do anything else, if you can't stand, you can't give, you can't do anything else, for me, for the other guys, vote. Vote.
Okay, we want to thank you guys for joining us. And Richard, I'd like to ask permission to come back again sometime so that we can talk and kind of keep up.
Sure.
And right now, really what I want to do is just get a big hug from you.
Okay.
Okay. And
Love you, baby.
God bless you. And
Love you. All right.
And anyway, I'd just like to say that, you know, God be with us and God be with the January Sixers. They stand for real hope. The thought of them singing the national anthem through the halls of right in the midst of a bunch of people that actually hate them, you know, just rips at my heart. But God be with those people.
They used to scream at me to stop. The guards would scream, "I hate you people, quit singing that."
That's right. God be with them and God be with all of you. And let's get out there and vote. And let's get out there and let's set the record straight and let's set this terrible thing that's happening right. God bless America.
God bless America.
And we're going to say so long for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.